Congratulations, and certainly best wishes. We are pleased to have with us this morning a distinguished public servant. Barbara McQuade served as the United States Attorney for the Eastern District of Michigan for 7 years. In her leadership role, she tackled cases that would impact the quality of life for Michigan citizens. Cases of public corruption by elected officials in order to rebuild confidence in government. Environmental cases that would result in protection of our waters, and cases related to crime to make our communities safer. During her tenure, Ms. McQuade aggressively prosecuted high-profile cases. Some of them you may have seen on television. But simultaneously, she worked to support initiatives to reduce community violence and to protect those who were fallen victims to civil rights violations. Before being named as the first woman to serve as the U.S. Attorney for the Eastern District of Michigan, she was an Assistant U.S. Attorney in Detroit and was Deputy Chief of National Security Unit. Ms. McQuade is a graduate of the University of Michigan and the University of Michigan Law. Respected on both sides of the bar and on the bench, she has left behind a legacy as a public servant in the U.S. Attorney's Office. She built a team of outstanding lawyers who will continue to work to protect Michigan citizens and our state's resources, as she has done so ably for the last 7 years. I am honored to present to you today's commencement speaker, former U.S. Attorney for the Eastern District of Michigan and current Professor of Law at the University of Michigan School of Law, Barbara McQuade.
Well, President Smith, bachelor's, master's, and doctoral candidates, families, and honored guests, it is my great honor to speak to you today at your commencement from Eastern Michigan University. What a joyous occasion to walk into this room and see a sea of green and all of these seats filled with joyful people is a wonderful, wonderful experience. Let's hear it for the class of 2017. It's all right, you can do a quick shout out, go ahead. Shout out to your loved one, go ahead. Let's get it over with. All right, that's enough for now. Now, this should be a joyful occasion, and for every one of us who's here, we're so proud of our graduates. All of these students, these candidates for degrees here, have worked so hard and worked so long. For all of the long lectures, exams, essays, and papers, all-nighters, loud dorm rooms, cold pizza, all of it has led you to this great day. Some of you have juggled jobs and families along with your studies. Here at this great university, you have been exposed to new ideas, you've learned from the diverse perspectives of other students and professors, and you have corrected people many times that it is pronounced Ypsilanti, not Ypsilanti. Congratulations on a job well done. And for all of the families and friends who are here today, we salute you as well. We know that part of this day belongs to you. You are the ones who provided support, both financial and emotional. And as you watched your graduate earn a degree today, you should be proud not only of them, but also of yourselves, because you are part of this success. Some of today's graduates are the first in your families to attend college. For you, today is a milestone for your entire family. Graduates, I know some of you are here on your own, and that takes courage and strength as well, and I salute you. But for those of you who have a friend or family member, please stand, find them in the crowd, look them in the eye, and say thank you right now. All right, you found him, you said thank you. Okay, more time for thanks after the ceremony. Graduates, after today, some of you will go on to further study. I've met some students who are planning to attend graduate programs. Some will immediately join or remain in the workforce. But whatever it is you do next, today is the commencement of your lives as citizens of this great country. Today, we pass the torch of leadership on to you. And we're all counting on you to contribute to our communities, to sustain our great nation. And so I want to talk to you today about the critical importance of your duties as citizens engaged in a democracy. We live in the greatest nation on earth, but I will tell you that at this moment in our history, I am concerned about our future. We are so polarized that we no longer listen to each other. We live in our own echo chamber bubbles of Instagram, Twitter, or Facebook, reinforcing our beliefs with stories that may or may not be true. Time magazine recently ran a cover story entitled, "Is Truth Dead?" When we live in an era of social media, when urgency overrides accuracy, how do we discern truth so that we can make informed decisions? Sometimes we, the people, are our own worst enemy. We are obsessed with celebrity gossip, reality TV, designer fashions, the sports industrial complex, and other material and superficial concerns. There's certainly a time and place in our society for entertainment and lighter fare, but never at the expense of our democracy. We have seen those in power attack the institutions that protect our freedoms, like our free press, free elections, and our independent judiciary. Here on this campus, we saw ugly racist vandalism. How do we collectively right the ship of America to ensure meaningful participation in a government of the people, by the people, and for the people? Thomas Jefferson once said, "An enlightened citizenry is indispensable for the proper functioning of a republic. Self-government is not possible unless the citizens are educated sufficiently to enable them to exercise oversight." And that's where you come in. Will you be known as the greatest generation or the me generation? It's up to you. How will you define yourselves as a generation? Will this be the turning point in our nation's history when the generation said, "We're going to seize control of our destiny as a republic"? The choice is yours. And I believe that if we want to take ownership and control of our democracy, then we need to do three things. First is to work to be an engaged and informed citizenry. Second is to learn to discern fact from fiction. And third is to listen to opposing views. I will discuss each of those briefly. First, democracy in action requires work to be engaged and informed. Many of you on this campus experienced the power of activism when you protested against racist vandalism. You saw the power to effect change. You have learned that democracy is not a spectator sport, that we must do more than just show up. You showed that we must be engaged, demand facts, and take action. That's how democracy works. But at the moment, we as a nation are failing miserably. In 2016, of the voters who are ages 18 to 29, many of you are in that demographic, only 50% voted in the presidential election. 50%. In some countries and in parts of this country, people died for the right to vote, and many of us can't bother to show up at the polls. Do we think our vote doesn't count? Are we too busy? Are we that cynical? I'll tell you a story about how every vote counts. A few years ago, a candidate for county commissioner, Yusuf Rabi, maybe some of you know him, he's from this area. He was going door to door in my neighborhood before the August primary. And my husband and I happened to be outside assembling a trampoline for our children. This is not something we do well. So we were struggling mightily, and as he's campaigning door to door, he could see that we were struggling, so he stopped to help. And he spent about 20 minutes with us of his precious time on the weekend before the election to help us. And so he did, and we finished assembling the trampoline, and we said, well, if you've spent all that time with us, we certainly can spend a little time listening to you tell us about your views on the issues. And he did, and after that, my husband and I decided to vote for him. He won his election by 1 vote. Every vote counts. Each of us, if every one of us takes our duty to vote seriously, then collectively we will truly have a choice that is of the people, by the people, and for the people. But every single one of the people who voted for Yousef Rabi was essential to his election, and every single one of your votes is essential to every election in this country. Of course, in order to cast a wise vote, you need to be informed. We need to be curious. We need to read newspapers. We need to attend or watch candidate forums. We need to read candidate websites. We need to listen to podcasts. We need to read information on social media. It all takes time and work, and it's our duty to do that work if we are to preserve our democracy. Now, it's okay once in a while to go on YouTube and watch a cute cat video. From time to time, I do the same. But we also need to spend some time reading about politics from all perspectives. There are no shortcuts to a more perfect union. All right, that's number one. Number two, the second thing we need to do to take charge of our democracy is to learn to discern fact from fiction, from fake news. As a prosecutor, I devoted my career to a quest for the truth. I have seen people outright lie, but more often, they minimize, they shade the truth, they blame someone else. They distract you with irrelevant facts. They undermine the credibility of opposing parties. They omit certain facts to lead to misleading conclusions. So in my work, I learned to be skeptical. You need to be skeptical of facts and decide for yourselves what is fact and what is fiction. And I don't believe this is a new phenomenon, by the way. I think the history books are full of fiction. And if we're skeptical, we can snuff it out. I mean, George Washington chopping down the cherry tree and cannot tell a lie? I think they've been taking us for suckers for a long time. When I was in college, I read a book called How to Lie with Statistics. It was an incredibly eye-opening book. It talked about studies and how marketing advertisers can use data to skew results. But one of the things, they talked about studies, and studies that say things like 90% of families who eat dinner together raise children who graduate from high school. Okay, that sounds good. And the obvious implication is that the mere fact of eating dinner together caused the children to graduate from high school. And maybe that contributed to some extent. But if you peel back the facts, if you are skeptical, you realize that there are possible other causes at work here. Families that eat together are likely to be stable families, increasing the odds that the child will graduate. Families that can put food on the table are likely to be more economically secure, improving the likelihood of graduation. Now, it may very well be that the fact of eating together did contribute to the graduation, but we should not assume that one and only one factor was the cause and not any other factor. We must learn to demand more facts and to be skeptical. The other thing that book talked about is how omissions of facts can lead to misleading conclusions. The book talked about those studies that say things like, 4 out of 5 dentists surveyed recommended our product. Well, isn't that great? But let me ask you this. How many different sets of 5 dentists did you ask? It suggests that it was just any random 5 dentists on the street. But in fact, in these studies, they asked 100 different sets of 5 dentists. And when they found 4 who agreed on the product, that's the one they reported about. We need to ask more facts, because otherwise those omitted facts can cause us to reach misleading conclusions. Be skeptical, demand more facts. We need to demand intellectual honesty from our leaders and ourselves. Sometimes we will give a pass to those we agree with because we so want it to be true. In journalism, there's a phrase that a story is too good to fact check, or don't let the facts get in the way of a good story. But as engaged citizens, we owe it to ourselves and our country to demand facts, to listen, to do the work, and rely on facts to make good decisions. And finally, number 3, and most importantly, to take control of our democracy, we need to listen to opposing views. We have become so polarized that we no longer listen, tolerate, or are even exposed to differing views. We are too busy blaming and bickering to actually listen and consider other viewpoints. We're so determined to see our red or blue team win that we don't care if our country loses. But in America, it is our diversity that makes us great. The diversity of this class is what makes you great. We should embrace these differences and realize that diversity makes us stronger and more effective. As a prosecutor, I often say we need to spend time with people who are different from us. I often would have lunch with criminal defense attorneys because I wanted to hear from our critics. We hired people from diverse backgrounds so that when making charging decisions, we in our office could replicate the diverse views of a jury in a courtroom. When discussing a case and making those charging decisions and deciding the evidence to present, it was so useful to have someone in the room who could say, you know, in the neighborhood where I grew up, just because you ran from the police didn't mean you had committed a crime. Or, in the country where I grew up, just because you don't make eye contact with an authority figure doesn't mean you are suspicious. It might be a sign of respect. Someone on the jury might be thinking the same thing. So armed with that knowledge, we were able to find evidence that could corroborate the testimony of a police officer and make the case better. Listening to those different perspectives leads to better decisions. I don't know why it is, but human nature seems to make us fear or even hate those who are different from us. Historically, some in our country have made other people scapegoats to blame for their own economic challenges. I believe this fear and loathing of other is learned behavior and not our natural state, since our Creator is the one who made us different. But regardless, when it comes to American democracy, we're all in this together. And so, like it or not, we need to get along if we want what's best for our future. When we spend time together, we realize that we all have more in common than we have differences. We all want the same things: life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. But we need to listen to each other if we are to find solutions to our challenges and succeed in the hard work of governing in a democracy. President Obama has said, "What makes America exceptional is our ability to change." We are not doomed to a downward spiral of idiocracy. Our destiny remains unwritten. Our future lies with you. You are the ones who can ensure that democracy does not fail. You can become engaged. You can demand facts. You are equipped to listen to diverse viewpoints to decide what is best for our country. The rest of us need your generation to take the lead. For those of us with more yesterdays than tomorrows, we're counting on you. And so as you leave this wonderful university, remember the friendships, the classmates, the professors who shared their wisdom, the support you received from friends and family, and take great pride in knowing that you came here and worked hard to absorb all that this great university has to offer. You have invested in your education. You've made great financial sacrifices. You have worked long, hard hours. You have mentally immersed yourselves in your studies, and you have spent considerable amounts of time away from families and friends. But by investing in your education, you have given yourself a great gift. How you will use this gift is up to you. But whatever you do with your degree, I urge you to be the engaged citizens the rest of us need. Thank you, and congratulations, class of 2017.
Thank you.